my God, Carlos, I love it. I have to tell you. So much more improved. All the sweet peppers are like and thing too. All right, it's it's time for a spotlight on now. And Ruckus is holding his head. I don't know why. It's just about 21 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. And we have somebody who is always advocating for the very, very safe use of fireworks. The Member of Parliament for Chaguanas West, who is a legal mind as well, which is why we have him here on the show to discuss the proposed amendment to the Summary Offences Act. So let me just say good morning and Happy New Year to you, Mr. Dinesh Rambally.
Good morning, Natalie, and many happy returns to you and, of course, to your network, your station. Happy New Year to all of you, your viewers and listeners.
Thank you so much for joining us. So where do you stand on the proposed draft legislation as we've seen it now in terms of treating with fireworks?
Natalie, let me start off by saying that I have been doing just a minimal or meager amount of work together with some of the animal rights activists and the animal welfare groups, so that I want to make it clear that when I speak to you, I'm speaking to you in this capacity and not necessarily as member of the opposition party. And I want to make that clear because it is a matter which I know that the government, through the Attorney General and Minister Stuart Young as well, they have indicated that what has been put forward is only a draft paper, essentially, a draft bill, which is the product of really the Law Reform Commission. So what we are dealing with, and if that is in fact so, we are in the early stages according to what they have said. So I'm speaking to you based on, on a person who is also a pet owner, a person who has been investing, and I want to make it clear a little bit of time in terms of assisting with the animal welfare groups. And that is, I want to talk from that perspective. If I may say, Natalie, we have to take things in context. And we have just had the celebration of the All Year's Night into the New Year's Day, something that, most countries, and Trinidad is no exception, a lot of pomp and a lot of festivity goes into that. Yes, it is a time for celebration for many of us, but one of the most frightful nights, unfortunately, one of the most frightful nights of the year for all of our animals. Now, exploding fireworks are terrifying for pets and wildlife, and they have been creating serious issues for animals in our communities. As such, many animal welfare groups, as I said, animal rights activists have been calling on the government to take steps to protect these animals. But as these groups and activists do that, it appears that a lot of people still don't realize the trauma caused by fireworks upon animals, and that is most unfortunate. I think we tend to take it for granted. We take it as accepted that fireworks are not animal friendly. But it seems as though the population needs to be reminded of these things. The simple fact is that animals' sense of hearing is much more acute and sensitive than that of human beings.
Yeah.
This is why even we would see that when we have thunderstorms and these things that animals will cause a great deal of stress for animals. Over the years, what these animal groups and activists have been complaining about is that, of course, New Year's night being a classic example, All Year's night, into New Year's, that the animals become frantic, panicked, stressed, they become disoriented. A lot of them bolt out of their home yards. They become hit by cars. They become lost. We have wildlife, something which I noticed even this last occasion. We have wildlife behaving unusual ways, birds flying around, flushed out of their nests, trying to get beneath eaves and inside houses. So when we take these kind of effects and we take it as a context, firecrackers can be mistaken even for gunfire for human beings. So you can imagine the potential dangers that we're talking about and the consequences. We would have seen in the news report and since the All Year's into New Year's, personal injury to younger people, and we have had this occasions. I have been looking at some of the articles again in preparation, for your invitation to come on this morning. Severe burns, loss of fingers. Sometimes you have loss of limbs. And Natalie, I trust that this does not occur in Jamaica, but I'm saying for Trinidadians and Trinbagonians, it cannot happen to you until it does. That is the attitude. It can't happen to you until it does, by which time it cannot be undone. The harm is already done.
And
This is what you call...
we saw even for this New Year's Eve, where 20-odd family members lost their homes, 5 homes, as a result of some kind of, whether it's a firework or a lantern, and it just speaks to the indiscriminate use of these things. But somehow the proposed draft still allows us to be able to buy fireworks and to use fireworks, you know, on the holidays. So I'm thinking where the draft is and what the reality is, there doesn't seem to be much difference at this point anyways.
Yes. When we look at the release of 7th of January 2022, and it is headed Fireworks Bill Consultation. This is the Corporate Communications Unit of the Office of the Attorney General. What it says is that the Law Reform Commission considered 2 main approaches in their policy document. So this draft bill we are talking about, it is only a policy document as far as the AG's office is concerned, by way of their release, communications release. And they're saying the Law Reform Commission dealt with it from 2 points of view. Mode A involves the imposition of strict prohibitions against the import, sale, and use of fireworks. And Mode B aims to balance the safety and entertainment values. So it seems as though they have gone the route of Mode B. This is the Law Reform Commission. Mode A is where you want to see essentially the draft legislation or law going in that direction. So what you have, Natalie, is that, and I don't want to bring politics into it as yet, that time will come. But what you are having is that the animal groups are saying that there was a joint select committee which deliberated, they all made their presentations. This would have been sometime in 2017. And shortly thereafter, you have a joint select committee report. And so what they were expecting since about 2018 was something more tangible, something more enforceable that could be implemented for the benefit of animals, for pets. And we are not seeing that in this draft bill. I would think that from what I am reading and the feedback that I'm getting, I want to say that Ms. Joelle D'Souza is she's the founder of Animals Alive, and also one of the main players in GOAL, Give Our Animals Love, GOAL, that network. You also have Ms. Catherine Cleghorn, who I would have sent you yesterday some videos which we had done together at various times where we wanted to reach out to the community and tell them, you know, there are other ways you can celebrate your festivities without the fireworks. All of these, also Ms. Marissa Ramnat. But they are not, it is not limited to them. There are a lot of other persons. Ms. Nalini Dial has been doing a tremendous job. You also have other persons, the Zoological Society. So, I mean, the names can go on and on. And what I think everybody's clamoring for as a solution is that you have to look at it as the banning of fireworks needs to be done at the source. So the best solution, and from what we are gleaning, it would be to stop the importation of fireworks unless you have appropriately issued permits, and the chain of custody of those permits would basically, you know, it should require permits at all stages. So from the importation is one, but moving on from the importation now to the sale, at each level you would have the appropriately issued permits. Now, what does that mean? It means selling fireworks to anybody without a permit would be a criminal offense, which is policed and enforced. People think that that is already the law, and to just a partial extent it is. But what you have is you don't have the proper implementation, you don't have the proper policing, and you don't have the proper enforcement. What it needs is that everybody, Natalie, from the government to the police, to the citizens, and the courts as well, should take control of the fireworks seriously. So we need to look at it from that point of view. The chain of custody, you must have accountability at each stage with your
correct me, I am subject to correction, but as the legislation stands now, doesn't the Minister of National Security has a remit where he can ban fireworks as it is right now?
Yes and no. And this is the point. What provisions are in place? It is not being enforced, and therefore, what you have is you just have the widespread sale of the fireworks, and so you may have a situation of where people are importing the fireworks. Having imported it, you just have a widespread distribution, and you don't have the enforcement of anybody having the permits. And even if they have the permits, exactly what is the permit for? How did they go about getting the permits?
But I know
What
that
checks and balances are in
the
place?
draft legislation suggests having a permit to buy fireworks, though.
Yes. Yes, that is correct, Natalie. The draft legislation does say that. And so what they have been trying to do and this is my understanding of the bill, is they are seeking to amend the Summary Offences Act, basically to now include in one piece of legislation the proper definitions for fireworks, which I have seen some groups have said no. In fact, I saw an article by Miss Helen Drayton in the weekend papers, and she was pointing to the fact that the definition for fireworks and explosives, they are not consistent, and as to who are the users of it, permissible users. So all of these things, this document, which has been put forward, Natalie, to answer your question in short, public consultation request for feedback. It is not a document which codifies any movement from what the existing law is, to take it in the direction of where people are clamoring that they want it to be. So it is not going to make a difference. It is not going to, oh, sorry, I should say that what makes a difference here is really you are saying that they are now making some provision for where you can actually use the fireworks. There are some times that they are now allotting, which does not make a difference.
I
In
think
fact, you would
even
want to regulate.
I think even
Yes.
word can be used to me is ambiguous, because an open space can literally be a park in front of your house, a sweat field.
Yes.
You know what I
Yes, that
mean?
is
So
correct.
the boundaries to me have to be more defined. As a matter of fact, if it was left up to me, if not a complete ban, then it would only have to be in controlled circumstances by the police service, by the fire service, and not in individual hands, because that's where
And
we run into problems. And so I was surprised that
and
the legislation gives us permission to, well, the draft legislation gives us permission to get permits, to get it for holidays. And to me, that might encourage other people who never used it to say, okay, I wasn't sure before, but if I can get a permit, then
no,
whether it's this
no, I am.
holiday or
Yes.
that holiday, it gives me more of a leeway. Because societally, we just use it Diwali, Independence, and New Year's Eve, more or less. Those are
Yes.
the three holidays that we see people really use fireworks. But I
No,
mean,
and Natalie, in addition, yeah, I should say that in addition to that, the amount of fireworks is not something which is being limited by way of this draft as well.
yeah,
So the question is for
it's per
somebody,
person as compared to per household, and I mean, it
correct.
seems as if you can just get so much more. But maybe for them, it's that right now there's nothing to stop you from getting any amount you want. I don't know what the thought process is, but I thought that the draft legislation is so far removed from what I'm hearing from the public. You know?
And it is unfortunate. And as I said, I didn't want to invite any political statements into this as yet, because I think that in fairness to the animal welfare groups and activists, they have been doing a phenomenal job in highlighting the concerns insofar as it relates to welfare of animals. Natalie, this really is an injustice. This public consultation document is really an injustice to the work that has gone into the Joint Select Committee. And when we take on board the comments and the papers that these groups would have submitted, one of the issues that have been has been raised, is the call and the move towards silent impact fireworks. That does not feature at all in this document. So what you're seeing is that, if there is to be fireworks as well, it doesn't show that that has been taken on board. Now, the most countries, I don't have the percentage, but many of the developed countries are going in the direction, since 2018, certainly, of going in the direction of silent impact fireworks. And the question is that is not reflected here in this document at all. And that is where we need to go. You see, we are dealing with a small island. In a small island, you can have fireworks being set off at certain venues, and it is not going to be limited to an area. It is going to have impact. That is just how the geography of Trinidad and Tobago is made up. You can send off fireworks around the savannah and sending off the fireworks there. The zoo is right, basically across the road. And what can happen, and we have seen it, where the zoo has had instances. You may recall a couple years back, the kangaroo had suffered, serious trauma and would have died. So those concerns, the real life concerns, are not reflected in this document.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, that it is so far removed from what I'm hearing from the public. And that to me is my disappointment, because it would appear as if unless there's a complete 360 with the draft, that people are not going to be getting what they want to see, which is one, either a complete ban. That's what I hear from most people. I had TTSPCA on the program yesterday, and they're saying that they would prefer a complete ban. And outside of that, that just in controlled environment by people who are tasked with dealing with these issues, instead of just having it, throughout the general population.
And Natalie, in addition to, we're talking about from the perspectives of the animals, we have to look at the environment. This does not reflect in any way, nor does it portray that has taken on board what happens when we have recently the new Old Year's night into New Year's. You do have for a couple of days what you call, the particle pollution in the atmosphere. And that is a real concern. So there must be a move towards dealing with the type of fireworks that you are going to allow. And so it may be more expensive for the users, but we must be able to strike the balance, and this document doesn't do that. The question is, how much longer, Natalie, or how much more do we have to suffer before we get our acts together? We have had major fires causing death and destruction, personal injury, as I had said before. The bill itself does not cure the mischief. It is tantamount to banning use of fireworks, essentially when it rains. And that is what you have here. It does not deal with the severity of the effects of fireworks as it presently obtains in the society. So, Natalie, I really would like to say that I trust that moving forward, that this bill would be called out for what it is. It is not just simply a draft paper put forward by the Law Reform Commission. This really was an excuse. In fact, I thought, and maybe I can make that comment now, and I make it in jest. I thought that when this bill came forward, and they were talking about dealing with fireworks, I thought that they were mistaken. They really meant to deal with another fireworks which was taking place in the PNM ranks, because you had the Attorney General at that point in time. Basically, he was under some fireworks in regards to his relationship, whatever it may be, with the Ocean Pelican. So I thought they were confused about what fireworks they were dealing with. And therefore, really and truly, this bill was really a distraction and not meant to deal with the fireworks that we know and what we would like to have dealt with in a proper manner.
Well, so I don't know that this distraction is working, because realistically, the people don't seem to agree with the draft legislation. But before you get into any more politics, I'm going to leave it there. We are out of time. But Dinesh Rambally, thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. And let's see how those consultations go. By the way, when are those consultations taking place?
It is taking place now, and I believe the 26th of January has been stipulated as a deadline. 26th of January, and basically people can download this document off the net, and they can email at their suggestions to events@ag.gov.tt, and also just subject the fireworks bill. You can title your document as such, but they have it as the 26th of January 2022. And I would urge people, I say that all of the groups, the animal welfare groups, the animal activists, they have all been doing a tremendous job. I have to say kudos to them, hats off to them. And basically, members of the public, because they are old people, there are young persons, babies are affected, elderly people are affected. It concerns you whether you have a pet or not. So, Natalie, thank you so very much for inviting me on the program. It has truly been my pleasure.
All right, thank you so much. Dinesh Rambally there, Member of Parliament for Chaguanas West. But as he says, he has done some work over the years with these animal rights groups. So I know that it was something that was, near and dear to him.